Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Rising. I'd like to welcome you back today to the Godot community. This is our Fine Arts PLC neighborhood for elementary visual arts teachers. If you're new to the community, welcome and thanks for coming by. And if you are not new to the community, thanks for coming back and visiting us again. This is going to be our second part of our 7th webinar. I can't believe we're at 7 already. And what I'm going to do today is share with you a PowerPoint presentation for a new way to teach the elements of art. I've got a process video that will come in at the end, and I will also share the link to this video so that you can use the PowerPoint in your teaching if you want to. Just a friendly reminder, remember to subscribe to our posts and also remember to respond to our discussion, which will be disclosed at the end of the presentation. It's always helpful when we can get a good dialogue going and share ideas across the state. All right, you guys ready? This is going to be a good one today. This, like I said, webinar 7, Art Room Methodologies, and this is going to be the Elements of Art lesson, Neurographic Art. What I did here, I got kind of bored with, and I think my students were too, the same way I was teaching the elements of art. I was having them create a poster, and I'm sure you've seen it before. This is a new version of that. So I'm kind of doing a mashup where I'm mashing up neurographic art, which seems to be popping up all over social media, along with the elements of art. So our kids can get a little bit of mindfulness in their art as well as working on the elements of art. In this episode, I'm going to show you how you can review the elements of art, just give you a quick insight as to neurography in art and the process video. I've included here 2 separate videos that you can use with your students. This one and the next one you can play to share with them and review with them the elements of art. And here is a second version. Either one works. I like both. And it's also really helpful if you have students that moved in maybe mid-year and haven't covered some aspects of the elements of art. So these are here for you to share with your kids at your convenience. This is the typical course that I've followed when teaching the elements of art. And while the final project for this lesson looks similar, I like the idea of incorporating the neurographic art. So let me go in and tell you what neurographic art is if you haven't heard of it yet. The whole premise is that it relates to the nerves and the nervous system. So the diagrams of the nervous system look something like this. And what folks have done is they've taken these images that you see right here, these scientific images, and now we are converting them into art. And really, it's doodling. It's a technique where you're drawing freeform lines and just enabling that mind and conscious and unconscious mind. So it kind of gets them in a relaxed state as they create the basis for their artwork. I've included the link for this at the bottom here if you would like to see more. This teacher here where I've got the image has a great lesson that she's included that doesn't include the elements of art. Basically, your base starts like this and then you go into the product. I'm going to share that with you next in the process video, and you can watch that and then come back and we'll talk about wrapping things up. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the process video for the Neurographic Art Element of Art project. It's the combo project I mentioned. So by now you have seen the information on what neurographic art is, and your kids have been either refreshed, prepped, reviewed the 7 elements of art. And so I'm going to take you through this portion, and you can even use this for kids who are absent to show them what's going on. So I'll teach this as if it were a student working so that you can use it for that purpose as well. What you're going to need for this project is a Sharpie, a pencil, maybe an eraser, and then for the coloring portion,
You can use your colored pencils. You can use the color sticks, markers, paint. I like to teach it as a mixed media, but what you want to end up with when we are all done is a piece that is filled with crisscrossing lines, but they also have some spaces. Now I showed you guys this because these spaces, you need to have 7 good sized spaces where you can demonstrate your element of art. And I think these are a little small. And I think these are a little small. So I'm going to show you about the right size to do these because you have to have the areas for including the illustrations of the elements of art. And this tool is going to be used all year to help you remember the elements of art. So the first thing you're going to do is start to make marks on the page. And you want to go off the page. I'm going to get a different Sharpie because that one's not so great. And again, go not super fast. You don't have to press hard with the Sharpie. Coming across, and again, that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'll divide my paper even further. I'll come up and over. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have enough spaces. The whole process of creating these lines is to kind of get you relaxed, into a relaxed state of mind. So while you're doing this, the room should be quiet. You should be just making the marks on here. I'm talking, of course, to give instruction, but again, make those times quiet while you're doing this part. And then what you're going to do is wherever these lines cross each other, you're going to soften them up a little bit, soften them up by creating curves. It almost looks like an interchange on a highway, and coloring those in and then thickening your lines like so. Again, the mindful process of this works well too. I find that the thicker Sharpies work really well in this to thicken up and emphasize my lines after I've done the crisscrosses. So again, I'm just going to get in there. Anytime there's an intersection, and then just create that curve that creates that subtle effect. And then bring those lines back together. Like so. One of the cool things about these wide Sharpies is that if you turn them this way, you can get them to make super fine lines. You can turn them this way, and I can keep a more medium line. I can turn it on its side and get a much heavier line. It's all depending on how you want your work to turn out, but I'm going to do my lines and trace over them again so they're all pretty thick. And then what you're going to refer back to, go back and touch up any areas like this. Make sure you've curved out any intersecting lines. We're not making an X here like this. What we're doing is we're rounding them out. Almost like, and you will have seen hopefully in the presentation, the neuron images. And you can see how these intersect. All right, I will come back to this after I finish doing my lines. Now that that's finished, you're going to plan out your elements of art poster. This will be a reference. In the video presentation is a elements of art sample page. You can also have the kids make a list of the elements next to them on their work area, and then let them kind of go through here and lightly in pencil plan out what they're going to do with which elements. I also like them to use one space for their name. So I'm going to designate that space for my name and then figure out which one of these is going to need their biggest area and which one's going to need the smallest area, and then fill in accordingly. So I might do line in here. And these words are going to be replaced later. I feel like shape is going to need a pretty big space. Form, color, and they don't necessarily have to do the same thing. And there's really no wrong answer. This tool, remind them, is really for them to refer back to. So it's a sheet that will help them remember the elements and how they're using them in their art. And when you're talking about art, where you see it. I think I'll do value out here. And then they just go about filling in the areas with the elements. So maybe in the color, I'm not going to do a color wheel per se. I'm just going to do a graduated space that shows colors going one way to the other. Now, color is pretty intense in that we've got the color wheel, we've got analogous colors, how these colors relate to each other. So you want them to think about how they're going to represent that in their work. In the sphere of shape, maybe they're just filling the space with both organic and geometric shapes. And again, this is for the purpose is to help them remember what the elements are. So there's no wrong answers as long as that's reminding them of what it is. And then include the word in there somehow as well. Space, they could either do positive or negative space. Lots of ways to show that. And then you also might remind them to think back on previous years and what we've done in those previous years to do the work. So really just filling all of this in and getting the best marks on the paper, and then go back in and color it. We've got texture, form. Some of them might struggle with certain areas. Just have them work as buddies with each other, maybe brainstorming ideas. And then the last thing, somehow incorporate your name in this space. So you could do a letter that fits in the space like this. And that is kind of a mash-up lesson using the elements of art, using the neurographic kind of art. So we're starting off in a real relaxed state, and then going into this and showing what they know as far as the elements, and then coloring those in. Lots of ways to do it, lots of ways to have fun with it, and lots of ways to tweak it so that it fits within your schedule, whether you're seeing the kids on a block schedule or whether you're seeing them every 6 days, however it works for your school. I think you'll find a great way to make this project work for yours. Hope you enjoyed that. See ya.
All right, I hope that video helped. This right here is the final piece all colored in, just a student example. And hopefully it gives you an idea of where your kids can go with this. I would really encourage them to make this their own and make it something that can help them remember the elements of art in their own way. All right, well, before you guys go today, what I'd like to do is ask you guys, how do you go about teaching the elements of art? That'll be our discussion question for this webinar. And just share with us, do you introduce them in a particular order, or do you individually teach them within an art challenge, or do you do multiples in an art challenge? Let us know, share that out with the group, and hopefully we can get some good dialogue going. Thanks so much for coming by to visit, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.